sometimes I get called a hometown boy, and it's only really half true because I was raised in Linthicum. But that's something I try not to tell people because it hurts my cred. But the person I'm going to introduce is a true hometown girl. And she was also the first person to ever publish my work. I, as a 17-year-old, saw that there was this writing contest in the News American. That's how long ago this is. And I sent in something, and she published it in Young World, which was an insert into the News American back in the early 70s. And we might have met briefly. Judy,
You're the critic.
Yeah, the reading for that Young World contest was in the Wheeler Auditorium at the Pratt on Cathedral Street. And I'm sure I met MiMi briefly there. And then we didn't see each other for maybe another 20 years. Life goes this way and that way. And I bet we passed out here at the crossroads of the Western Hemisphere many a time. And then we renewed that friendship in the late 80s, early 90s, right about the time she was earning, I believe, your undergraduate degree because your mother had a big party for you.
Hopkins.
From Hopkins. And that was in creative writing, correct?
English and World Lit.
English and World Lit. Anyway, there's a lot I could say about MiMi Zannino because she's a giver. You know, you don't. If you want to amass wealth, you don't go into the sort of lines of work that MiMi does, which is going into the schools to share poetry with students that maybe poetry is no longer part of the curriculum. She has gained a fair amount of recent notoriety as a historical impersonator of Emily Dickinson, which, given her Italian background, I like to call Emilia Dickincenzo. So, without further ado, I will, and she grew up right down the street here, right down the street at Conklin and Golf, right above Zannino's funeral home, and wondered as a little kid why none of her girlfriends would stay for a sleepover. I give you my first publisher and my dear, dear friend, MiMi Zannino.
Dad is with us today. I called him this morning and I said, Dad, you want to join us? We're having a big party at the library. And he said, well, I'd have to shave. And I said, well, you have 4 hours. And he said, I need it. And this is my 86-year-old dad, Joe Zannino. So I want to thank Rafael Alvarez because when he invited me to join you all today, it inspired me to write this piece. So he is the muse of this piece. Christmas postcard to Highlandtown. In a world of Saturday matinees at the Grand Theater and the Patterson, where buttered popcorn greased our fingers and lips, we felt all grown up walking 2 long blocks without parents or babysitters, from Conkling and Golf to Eastern Avenue, a gaggle of little sisters and brothers and neighborhood buddies tagging along. When the lights dimmed and the big screen lit, our imaginations blotted out the worries of adolescence, replacing them with Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and Disney's Technicolor characters, all the same inside that magic chamber. On Sundays, we'd walk a few blocks farther to Fleet Street, where the wide expanse of a warehouse building called Skateland drew nimble and not-so-nimble kids. I only wore 1 red pom-pom on my roller skates for fear of tripping over myself. But the cool girls strung together a huge bouquet of pom-poms in bold primary colors. They slid across the wooden floor like city angels in short flaring skirts, whipping around corners and gliding backwards, doing rubber legs or taking a cute partner for the slow couple songs, weaving in synchronous dance, almost never colliding, while I mostly played at being a pinball wizard by the snack stand, daydreaming about a first boyfriend and when my dad would ever let me date. the greatest spectacle of color, sound, and emotion came annually just after Thanksgiving, when the drab concrete sidewalks and tar-topped streets miraculously transformed into a Christmas postcard, Highlandtown style. Block after city block, from Patterson Park to the underpass leading to Greektown and some of the best restaurants around, people walked from Stewart's to Woolworth's, passing Judy's Bridal and Kaplan's shoes, where Mom bought me black and white saddles for school and patent leather Mary Janes for church, and tenors for sleepovers with Nonna off the Alameda, or at Nana's stone house on Lakeside, where fireworks from the old Memorial Stadium fizzled into her backyard. Down the avenue we walked, to the train display in front of Prince's shop, to Dietz's children's clothing, to Shockett's for a pair of ice skates or gloves, then to Reed's drugstore, searching for the perfect gifts in a bygone age when layaway and Christmas savings accounts at the local banks allowed you to choose modest gifts for appreciative family members and friends. A bottle of Gina Tay for Mom, Old Spice for Dad, Rock'em Sock'em robots for little brothers. By 13 years old, it was my job to hunt from store to store, a crumpled wish list in my hand of the toy or two each of my 7 siblings hoped for. I'd fill a large black trash bag with these treasures and smuggle it through the funeral home and up the stairs into my mother's closet, where a wardrobe of lovely maternity dresses were arranged in one corner for a woman who carried an infant 8 years out of 12. Everyone sat on Santa's lap at Epstein's in the toy department and came away waving a Polaroid shot, proof that the imagination prevails. Light poles grew red and green and white decorations of candles, reindeer and poinsettias, plastic candy canes, garland and silver bells. Christmas songs blasted from storefronts, luring you in. Back then, a man roasted fragrant chestnuts over 55-gallon drums and sold them on the street corner. I always loved the soda fountain at the Five and Dime, where pastel balloons were strung by their navel knots above the stools. Pop one to find out whether you were lucky enough to get a banana split for 1 penny. Everyone loved the French fries bathed in hot gravy, or a quick stop at the little tavern for those tiny hand-formed burgers, raw onion pieces poking out of the beef patty. If you made it all the way down the avenue, you warmed yourself in a booth at G&A with a chili dog, and lingered amid the music of accents brought over from Greece and Italy and Poland, all the lands that delivered our relatives from the ports of their origin to working-class neighborhoods where every few blocks boasts a church on one corner and a bar just opposite. Some neighbors made Christmas pilgrimage to Kramer's for caramel popcorn, or stood in line 3 hours at Chocolateurs, Walkenfuss, or Reb's. Some sent the older children to corner bakeries, Hohen's on Bank and Conkling for Vienna bread and peach pie, Mikulski's for buttercrumb raisin bread to eat after midnight mass, or strawberry pie and wine squares from Hausner's, my mom's favorite, to indulge the family after eating fresh SK ham and the 7 fishes. The aroma of ethnic recipes wafted through painted screens: marinara, ravioli, guamkis, meatballs, kielbasa, sauerkraut, hot milk cake, ricotta pie, krusciki, cannoli, and pignoli cookies. At Christmas time, our Girl Scout troop marched the streets, knocked on random doors, and caroled our hearts to high heaven. If you shivered enough, a sweet lady would invite the troop inside for mugs of steaming hot chocolate with a fat floating marshmallow and a homemade chocolate chip cookie, then send us on our way. Hearkening like angels through the silent night, dashing through the snow, led by a red-nosed reindeer, from the first day of Christmas into a brand new year, where hope was sure-footed because our busy homes and churches and communities left us little time to consider ourselves lesser or greater than anyone else. Highlandtown kids have a certain swagger, born of immigrant blood and working class pride. Boredom was not a condition of our generation. By our teens, we had each fallen into a cluster of activities based on homegrown responsibilities and talents. Softball and soccer players, scouts, CYO, Children of Mary Sodality, choir, drama club, school newspaper, forensic team, future teachers, future secretaries, student government. Everyone I know was expected to help cook dinner, wash dishes, sweep, or scour marble steps. Some immigrant parents expected their young teen daughters to mop and polish the hard asbestos tile floors on hands and knees in their kitchens and bathrooms until they glinted. And then there was our paper boy, my first crush, the older brother of my first neighborhood friend. I begged Mom to let me wrap the Avon cologne she had chosen for him and to let me knock on his door and place the Christmas gift into his hands with my own. That sweet paper boy grew angel wings as he sailed from a window of the World Trade Center on 9/11, an executive vice president in New York for a short business trip. One of the good ones, so dear to the hearts of so many neighborhood friends. Thank you, Joe, for your easy kindness that spilled from your smile, for letting your little sister Marianne borrow your 45s to spin on the portable record player Santa brought me one Christmas. We held them so carefully as not to get a fingerprint on the black shiny surface, nor a scratch from the diamond needle. How we all loved to watch you play soccer with the rest of the athletes at the public school lot and on the fields at Patterson Park, rough and tumble outdoor arenas where soccer players were born and earned them scholarships to college. There, when snow fell in winter, kids dragged red-trimmed wooden sleds to the tops of hills and took joy rides. And at Christmas time, when the sun set over the park, people strolled past churches in hushed tones, admiring the life-size creche, the manger under the tree. Cars stopped and people bowed their heads in prayer at Abbott Church on the corner of Highland and Bank, where a nativity scene complete with live manger animals stood in tableau. Midnight Mass at St. Casimir's, the men and boys choir at Sacred Heart of Jesus, candlelight service at Nazareth Lutheran, midnight Mass at Our Lady of Pompeii. Everyone decorated their humble row homes. Festive ornaments were bought from Mr. Stanford at Conkling Salvage, but the most curious and extravagant display was hidden in a dim-lit parlor behind the liquor store at the end of my block. Miss Rosie and her sister Boogie, savvy entrepreneurs, created a winter wonderland and train garden. Most neighbors decorated modest front windows with faux snow scenes, stenciled winter images from cardboard templates of snowflakes and snowmen. Inside, Christmas cards were taped along the door frame separating the front parlor from the kitchen area in the narrow dwellings, or hung from a string over an archway, or down the banister. On Christmas Eve, some parents sent their children to bed early and stayed up all night erecting a train set or putting bikes together. In the Zannino household, there were a few variations on this heartwarming theme. We timed our tree trimming around the reality of someone's wake in the first floor viewing rooms of our funeral home. We stayed as quiet as 8 children could during the hours of 2 to 5 and 7 to 9. When people crossed our threshold to grieve the passing of their loved one during a season that seemed rightly meant only for joy. Shortly after 5, Dad would drag a fresh-cut tree up a long flight of stairs into the living room. We had 2 hours to play out our annual ritual. One year, the demands of life were so great that my father could not buy a tree until after 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve. He walked a few blocks to the corner of Venice Tavern, where annually fresh-cut trees leaned against the brick building. But only one bare-branched soldier stood. Dad bought it for 50 cents. But when he carried it up the long flight of steps into the living room, the look on Mom's face was priceless. We stared at it and each other and back at it in shock. Then we burst into laughter at the puny pine and pledged at that moment to make it our own. "It's a Charlie Brown Christmas tree," we piped out. And we proceeded to gingerly add the lightest glass ornaments and a few featherweight strands of silver icicles. Yes, we'd had hardy spruces and tall firs, majestically high and pleasantly plump. But the trimming we most remember is that pathetically bare Charlie Brown Christmas tree. When the job was done, Mom motioned for me to take the little ones to their 3rd-floor bedroom and coax them to sleep so she could get on with the work of a long evening ahead, preparing for Christmas Day, vacuuming the viewing rooms and cleaning the coffee lounge after the grieving people had gone. When those duties were complete, Mom began layering her lasagna noodles between ricotta and mozzarella filling to take with us on Christmas Day to her parents' home off the Alameda. Her dad, a Sicilian cobbler, wanted nothing more for Christmas dinner than my mom's lasagna and some fresh finocchio for digestion after the biggest meal of the year. So while Mom cooked and cleaned, I nuzzled with my 2 youngest brothers and read from the dog-eared pages of The Night Before Christmas, which had been handed down from the previous 6 little Z's. After the 3rd reading, my big sister voice warned, "Santa won't come if you don't go to sleep." "But we don't have a chimney. How will he get in?" "He'll come through the window," I promised. So we'd look through the metal grates protecting the 3rd-floor bedroom windows, a detail Mom insisted on when building our dwelling, and searched the southeast Baltimore skies for signs of Santa and his reindeer. "I think I see him. We'd better close our eyes and pretend we're sleeping so he doesn't pass us by." And I'd rest my head between these curly-topped toddlers till their giggles stopped and their breath grew still. Then slip off the bed and crawl out the room, slowly slide Mom's closet door open and retrieve the black trash bag of toys, tiptoe down 24 stairs and wrap them in foiled paper, write each child's name on a tag, and arrange them around our fresh-cut tree. Then I'd go into the kitchen and make my mom a fresh pot of Maxwell House in the stainless steel percolator I had bought her the previous Christmas with my $10 savings, and which she always said that I made just strong enough. She'd take a sip, then sink her knuckles into thick biscotti dough and sculpt little braids the way her Sicilian grandmother had taught her. The scent of cinnamon still tickles my nostrils. Thank you.